We ready? All right. Call to order this meeting of Johnson County Solid Waste Management District on March 10th, 2025 at 2 p.m. Roll call, please.
Kevin Walls,
Present.
Ron West, Brian Baird,
Here.
Susie Quells,
Here.
David Lexi,
Here.
John Ditmars,
Here.
Mark Myers. So we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll move on. First order of business, approval of the minutes for the January 13th, 2025 meeting.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion about that? All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
I am standing in for Angela today. It is tax season, so most March meetings, I imagine she will not be able to be with us, but that's okay. I know the answers. So
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll fire you some.
let me-
Johnny,
Yeah.
get one out of the.
Ron's not here.
Yeah.
It's the
So
same
that is
thing.
true. I should have said, since Commissioner Russ isn't here, I know the answers. Yeah, no. Actually, I do appreciate his due diligence. But when we are looking at a approval of claims from January 11th through March 10th, we did keep them open through the board meeting today, as we do anytime we have an earlier meeting. So this should be a good snapshot of all of our bills. And the amount for the check register for the solid waste fund is $37,791.67. The amount for the bond fund is $200,093.495 in the bond fund, for a total of $331,287.67 for the check register. And if you look below, you will also see those same numbers from the bond fund, the checks that were written, and the balance that is left as of 3/8.
Anybody have any questions? I don't hear any questions. I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve the treasurer's report.
First,
Second.
you got a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Okay. You're clear on that one with no major questions.
No.
Okay, CAC committee.
The CAC committee, we were slated to meet in February, if you remember, after our last board meeting. However, everyone, and I kid you not, with the exception of one person, either had the flu or their child had the flu. And I can speak to that because my husband has had the flu, and it is true. Men can be a little cranky when they're not feeling well. So I cannot wait for everybody to get out of this season. So we did not meet. However, we did speak over the phone, and Mark and Becky Appleton will be helping with our upcoming Saturday event like they do. They generally help Tom over the Talks box, which is a huge help for him, and it also frees me up to be over with the shredding event. So they do intend to do that, and of course, you know, they've been very involved with many of the upcoming education topics that we've been dealing with when it comes to the new building. Of course, we know that we really won't know the scope of those until we can finally get in there, but they're excited about the opportunity to set up some different programming and help us out with that. So.
Anybody got any questions on the CAC committee? None, I guess we'll just move on to your director's report, Jesse.
All of our annual reporting was complete. Of course, this year was the first year that we had to report the two different funds. So if you were to visit our information, you would see both the funds for the solid waste and the funds for the bond being located in there. If we move on to the recycling by the numbers, which is part of that, the annual reporting for SB 131. SB 131 is only required by solid waste districts, and it does give a culmination of all that we do. And so, of course, not that we don't present our annual numbers to you anyways, but that is also included in our SB 131. But if we could pull up the numbers. And then, can we get the full screen? I don't know, we need to still see my, oh, maybe not. Oh, there we go. Okay, so if you look at those numbers, you will see that we have actually seen a substantial increase in all of our lines with the exception of glass. I'd like to be able to tell you that there's an explanation for that, but there really isn't. I don't know. Sometimes, often, we also have hauls at the very end of 1 year, and so it doesn't necessarily play into the next year. And so, sometimes you get that January number and you'll get a haul at the beginning of January and at the end. So, but other than that, you will see that all of our numbers have seen an increase. And if you go across to our average resident that we see per day, it also increased 35%, which gives a pretty good story to why these numbers are as good as they are. We did meet with somebody in regards to a new baler, trying to find out some information. He's actually a vendor with our association. And it was awesome because I research the heck out of things, but I don't always have a true understanding of everything that we do because I'm just admittedly not that smart in every area that we are part of. But when we are talking about cardboard, one of the things that we face quite a bit when we're talking to our downstream vendors is trying to get the largest bale we possibly can within the footprint and scope of the tools that we have at our hands. And we have actually learned that we are doing pretty darn good. And so most bales in both a horizontal and a vertical, depending on their size structure, really only average between 800 and 1100 pounds per bale. And we are averaging in our vertical baler 1,000-pound bales, which is pretty impressive. The guy was pretty surprised. But it also tells our story of if we want to increase, one, manpower, but two, we will have to move into our next level of tools available to us to get more bales for our cardboard, which that is part of the program, as Councilman Ditmars had mentioned, in January. How can we grow? How can we look at things? Those are some of the things that we're looking at as we move, as possible grant opportunities within the state that are still available, would be available to us. Being able to get a baler at a different capacity that helps with loading, a more horizontal baler, which we've spoken about for the past year and a half, ironically, may not actually garner us that heavier of a bale, but it would help with manpower tremendously. So those are the things as we look forward. I hope that cardboard number continues to grow, but at some point, we will functionally not have a capacity for it to be able to grow in the way in which we are set up. But we're excited about the numbers. We are certainly excited about the commingled numbers. And this year is the first year that I've actually transformed both electronics and HHW into tons, because I hate you to see that small number, and if you multiply each of those numbers by 2,000 and I put it in pounds, you'd see a much bigger number. But for scale, it was easier to show. But you'll see growth in that, and I will be flat out honest. Those HHW numbers, as I mentioned the last time, continue to concern me as we move forward when it comes to our financials, because that is... I cannot tell you exactly how many people, because I can't tell you how many people canceled from our signups. That's not the way our system is set up. But we are probably looking at an average of 5 people a day. And if you know, we're only at the Talk Talks Monday, Wednesday, and Friday if you take across the year. And then on our Saturdays, anywhere between 35 and 50 people. So if you figure we're closed for 2.5 months out of the year, that number is not reflective of that many people. If you look at how many people we are now bringing in on a daily basis, that's going to be able to bring us in HHW every time we're open, it'll be very interesting to see where our budget ends up at the end of the year. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the opportunity for our residents, but I'm also concerned about our bottom line. But
Does that cost us money when you say that? Why?
because HHW is the largest cost to us.
Okay, that's fine.
For the residents. I mean, if you figure that our residents on average, and I apologize, I should have brought you in a copy of our SB 131, but if you figure $4 across the board, a very simple math, $4 across the board, I mean, you bring us one container full of, oh, well, heck, you drop us off one of those Coleman containers and it costs $6 to recycle, which is why we try and divert those into other places. But, you know, if you bring us 5 gallons of oil, you've easily taken that out, let alone the fact that you use us for multiple other things all throughout as well. Because we do not charge for any of the other services that we don't charge for any of our services, but that is by far the most costly program for the district. And it will grow. And we've discussed why we don't necessarily advertise the program, and that's why, but of course we know that everybody utilizes it, and we're happy to have them. Our phone has been ringing off the hook actually for the past month and a half in regards to it. You start cleaning up, and thankfully you want to do the right thing with your materials. So we shall see, but
Jesse, if I may insert, for our newer members of the board, one of the mandates, if you will, I hate to use that word, of creating solid waste management districts in every county with the exception of Marion County, every county has them, was the idea that we should get solid waste, trash, household out of our ditches, out of our streams, that was one of the fun reasons they created them. This board, numerous years ago, when they went to household hazardous waste, thought that if we could take that and recycle it in accordance with that mandate, if you will, without charge, we would be more likely to get people to bring it in, and that way the oil wouldn't be dumped in the ditches, the things wouldn't be left next to trash containers. And so I think that's why, as I've understood it in the 20-some years I've been sitting in this seat, the prior board members have thought that was the reason. That's part of taxes that are charged. That's what we want to have, is we want to provide this service. But I think reading between the lines, we've had limited days. That may be a service that gets utilized a lot more, which is good on the one hand, but it does, because we turn around and recycle it where it's supposed to be recycled. So, is that fair?
Absolutely, and as I said, we will certainly address this as it goes forward. It'll just be difficult for our budget as it comes up for 2026 because we'll let Wes handle it, but we'll be lucky if we've been open for a month before I have to submit that budget. So it'll be interesting. We were at the very end of our line last year for the amount of material that we collected, which was $35,000. So that's the part that will be interesting for us. Now, thankfully, we don't have that rent. So we should be able to move some of that money over, but don't be surprised when I move over a fair amount of money for that HHW collection, because I anticipate the growth in that area, and hopefully we'll be able to sustain that without having to look at other options for us.
Jessica, can I ask a question?
Sure.
First thing on my mind is how well is it publicized as far as availability of your service to the general public, as far as I've got paint in my basement or I've got oil in my shed or whatever I've got, you're available to do that. How is that publicized?
All of our towns, cities, MS4s, wastewater, all of them know that we have that service available, because part of it realistically is when Lynn talks about mandates, and the mandate is for them, which is why they use our numbers, to definitely make sure that those things are not going into our waterways. So they show up on people's sewer bills. I mean, we get phone calls from the city of Greenwood all the time.
I think what John's asking is, are you doing it, how are you getting the information out to the community? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram?
Oh, sure, yeah, we do all the social media, but as I said, we have always taken the stance that we advertise, but we advertise minimally, because we don't have, as far as direct advertising as like, come on, bring us all your stuff, we have relied on the MS4s, sewer bills, those type of things. We post on our social media, we send it out to the newspaper, we do different things all the time. But generally, it is somebody who's grandparents have passed away or parents have passed away, they are familiar, they know that there should be something available, and quick Google search and, we pop up.
John, to answer your question, every year, we have a couple of days, just because I flag them on my calendar.
Saturdays.
In the springs and Saturdays and those kind of things, there's usually something in the newspaper. I go to the website and find out when are those days.
It's like community awareness days or
That's-
something along that line.
That's correct. That's generally how it is done. And more of it's local here as opposed to those recycling folks who already have recycling available to them, perhaps on the North White River Township and those kind of things. But that's generally, you'll always see it in the Daily Journal.
There should be something right now, actually. There should be two in there at the Daily Journal.
But to Jesse's point, honestly, on the HHW, it's never been one where we really actively went out and get it because we didn't know if we could handle it.
Yeah, because we,
Because we
again,
get
with what we do, we hit our line last year and transferred a little in. So,
But maybe a different approach once we have the facility.
That's what
And we may have to think
that's the
about-
next thought I had, is the capacity you're talking about. I would hope with the new facility, that changes that concern.
But you may be tasked with considering fees associated with it,
Mm-hmm.
because we've been one of the districts that
doesn't charge
doesn't
anybody.
charge. And
So
other
that
dis-
was gonna be my question,
Correct.
is, actually, I have it written down here, as to historically, we have not,
Correct.
because like I say, I'm kind of new here. So we have not, but that has not, the only reason was,
That was because, and thanks for asking, sorry to bore these guys, they've been around for a long
That's
time.
all right.
But that's why I wanted to raise the issue. Historically, it has been that we were a taxing entity. So we got tax money from folks. We were going to be open limited hours. We cooperated with the county to have a place to do it, so we didn't think we were going to have a whole lot more. And we thought we could handle it within our designated budget, but that may be changing.
okay,
And at that point in time, you may be asked to consider whether you would think of user fees associated with it or not. And
Okay.
again, that just may be the climate on everything else that persons are tasked with to do.
so have we checked with other counties to find out what they're doing?
Well, most counties don't have a year-round facility like we do.
Okay,
Correct.
So Shelby County does, but Shelby County brings in over $200,000 a month now. So their budget looks a little bit differently than ours does. But a fair amount of them literally only have 2 days a year, which is what way back in the day we actually did. We
Okay.
actually hosted events and only had 2 days a year.
Shelby County brings in $200,000 a month from what source?
From a landfill, from tipping fees.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have a landfill, which we don't.
Yeah, and that just started because Waste Management started trucking it or railing in all of their material directly into their landfill, and so they have landfill tipping fees. Johnson County has no landfill. We have the one transfer station, which is why we get a lot of questions about trash, because it's not easy to dispose of your, materials.
And I do know that there have been other counties, because I've utilized the service in Marion County and someplace else, where if you were a resident, showed your driver's license, they would give you a voucher, and you could use it. If you were not, you were gonna be charged a fee. So since I was
out-of-county
not,
people.
since I was a Johnson County resident, in Marion County, I had to pay a fee. A Marion
Well,
County person.
and they don't allow that anymore. They actually discontinued that 5 years ago, because that's what Boone County used to do. And so they started doing events. But
Who doesn't allow it?
Marion County,
Marion-
Marion County doesn't do
They don't
MOUs
do that
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah.
They allow, they chose
They do a
not to
Saturday,
continue that
so
practice, right?
they have a Saturday collection that changes to 4 different locations. That's all they have
Correct, on Saturdays.
on Saturdays.
But I used to
Pick a
go.
county, I could probably tell you exactly what they do.
Thanks
But,
for the clarification.
oh yeah, no problem. But that's my point. So if let's just say this is an average of 5 residents, 9 months of the year, Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday, and I'm telling you that we are seeing on average 97 residents bringing their recycling anytime our doors are open, that is my concern. And so I don't want there to be this surprise that if all of a sudden we are seeing this bill, because I imagine I may end up with some line item transfers and questions as we're moving on with budgeting, of what to do going forward. I want you to
The more effective
have
we
the
are, the more
awareness.
the more issues it's gonna spin off, that we just
Well, I'm sure as a board, we'll handle it.
I'm sure.
I have
And
all
move
the
it
faith in the
forward.
world.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Have you guys got enough information? I don't think we've really got any clarity on that
No,
until we
there's-
get in the new building, we let it operate and we see, and we'll let it be, and we'll make decisions based off of that.
Mine's more just clarification.
Okay?
And if I could defer to both Lynn and Wes for these next two bullet points, I would
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I'm assuming you want me to address the compact.
I do.
All right. If you'll recall, at the last board meeting, as we make our move into the new building, one of the things that was asked is whether or not you would want to have a compactor quotes in terms of that. I want to make it very clear, because I know someone from Rumpke is here objecting to the process that was done, so I want to give you my legal opinion as to the process. First of all, it is not a public purchase, nor is this a public works project. This is a compactor rental. So this typical statutory requirements that you go out for bids, that you go out for quotes, you go out for any of those things are not applicable in this way at all. The only reason that quotes were obtained was because you as a board asked for them. And that's what you directed Jesse to do, is go get us a couple quotes. Not necessary, but good business practice, I believe you all thought. So based upon your direction at the last meeting, Jesse asked me about process perhaps that she should utilize. I indicated to her that I thought the best way to do it is to follow generally what we typically do, was to reach out to persons that we know to provide this service. Again, it's a contractor rental. Reach out to folks that we believe provide this service. Give them an idea of what we're looking for, and give them a date and time to respond with their proposal for purposes of leveling the playing field and making sure that no one had an advantage over someone else to find out what their quote was and then to change that quote. I believe Jesse did that.
I did. It's in your folder under compactor quotes.
And reached out to 4 companies that we know, based upon our experience, that do this kind of work, to solicit quotes, and she gave a date and deadline for when to receive those back. That was all done, and then those are for you today to consider. It is also my understanding, I'm getting this from Jesse, that Rumpke did not submit one, although contact was made with them. I believe their representative is here objecting to that. They wanted to be able to do it later because they indicated they didn't think that the statute requires what's were followed. I would again tell you, I don't think they were necessary in any way, shape, or form, and I think Jesse did exactly as you directed her to do. That is my legal opinion. I render no opinion as to any discretionary things that you decide you wish to do.
Okay.
Two things in that area,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind. Number one, if we asked her to do that, it is our ability to ask her to do that, and it is her job to do what we asked,
Yes, sir.
whether Rumpke agrees with that or not.
That is correct.
Secondly is, we have now 3 quotes that I'm not sure that Rumpke hasn't seen unless they have been totally confidential in every way, shape, or form, which I can't guarantee, and I don't know that we can guarantee. Does anybody out there in the room have any of this in their hands?
I don't have any idea what the quotes were said.
Wes, do you have that paperwork in you? Do you have that paperwork? Then that means it went to some people other than this board.
It's part of the packet and
So,
agenda available
There's
for
no
inspection.
guarantee that those prices didn't get out. That would be a very, very unfair advantage to these other 3 that did what they were asked to do on the time factor they were asked to do it in. Yeah, and that is my point, and that's where I'll stop. And that's,
Anybody else have any comments on this? Okay.
does anybody disagree with what I said? No, I agree.
And,
I mean, we go through this process a lot in the county, and it's just the fair way to do things, and it's a proper way to do things in business is to ask for quotes. So I just disagree with the rebuttal that is not the way to go. So
So I would take it the board sees the three. Have any input on the three quotes that we have?
Sir, with your permission, perhaps Jesse should read them into the record though, or make them part of the record.
I'm going to see if anybody's got any questions before she reads them into the record,
Okay.
if that's okay.
So are we currently with anybody right now?
We are currently with Waste Management, but we are not in a contract with Waste Management because our contract ended. That's where this
Yes,
discussion
okay.
kind of came from.
And then our directive was to get
Right.
some
I
quotes.
do
So
now be refreshed.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's fine.
then I would ask her to read them into the record.
Okay, Waste Management had two different compactor prices for their monthly. The first being if we could utilize our current compactor, which I do not believe we would be able to, but if we were able to use that, it would be $250 a month for the rental. If we were not able to do that, it would be $550 a month for the rental. They had a $120 per ton processing fee. We based that tonnage on 6 tons a month, just based on the average across the board from our current compactor. The haul rate would have been $250 per haul. They had a contamination charge of $150 a ton. And they also had fuel and environmental charges that applied. However, there was no information to garner what those would be. So there was really no way to incorporate that information into my finding for my monthly totals. But based on what I could incorporate, they would have been $1,220 a month or $1,520 a month. And again, that is without fees, and that was with a 3-year contract.
May I add,
Sure.
Jesse, before you go on, the fuel and environmental fee is in our existing contract, and we always get one. It's an optional fee, but just so you know, it's always included.
Yes, I don't think it's an option.
Yeah, but it says in the
If
contract.
it is, I opt out.
Yeah, it's an option, but I
Yeah.
base your decision on expectation you would have one.
Republic, the compactor rental was $740. I do know that it was a compactor that was available to be brought to our building. We would be able to load with the forklift directly from the dock into the new building. Theirs is a $20 per ton processing rate for $120, a $580 per haul rate, and no additional fees. Their bid was all encompassing. So total of the month was $1,440 for 3 years. I might add that Republic is opening a new plastics facility in April. And I spoke directly to them to find out exactly what plastics they were taking in comparison to what we are currently collecting. And they said all, and I might add all, plastics 1 through 7, to include the ability for us to take things like styrofoam and also flexible packaging. That is certainly something that we are not currently able to do, and we turn away, almost every load probably has some of that material in it. So the possibility of collecting all materials is exciting. I mean, it's really exciting.
Jesse, when's their facility gonna open to do that? When?
April.
April.
Yep, they are actually having an open house. I believe it is March 18th, and will open in April.
The plastics would be an additional to this.
Nope, it's all part of our
I don't
commingled
trust them.
compact.
I don't trust them.
Yeah, it's all part of our commingled. So, Caldwell's had $500 a month for a compactor rental, $120 per ton, so again, $720 a ton, a $365 per haul, and their current fuel charge is 10%, but with the ability to fluctuate at any time. And they would have a 3% increase each year, so an estimated total is $621 over 5 years. I did the 10% on that 365 haul, and that's where I came up with that information.
So the 1621 is based on the 10%?
That is based on the current 10% at 365 per haul.
Do any of these others collect all plastics too, or is this the only?
No,
Republic
I
the
reached
only
out
one?
to I reached out to them all directly, and Republic is the only one that came back and said that they would include 1 through 7 to include styrofoam. I I asked the same questions of everybody, and if somebody asked a question of me, I made sure to respond and let everybody know, because one of the questions we get asked quite a bit is, why do we not put glass into our compactor, as all of these programs accept glass? And I explained that we actually have a separate program for glass and cardboard, and so none of the, even though I put in that those materials would not be included, they wanted an explanation of why, and so we explained that to them.
Or I assume we would get this in writing since it's different than anybody else's as
Yeah,
far
I
as-
actually have, yes.
So any contract we would sign, I would assume would have that in there to make sure that,
Yep.
would that
Except for
suffice
one,
you,
2, 7.
sir?
No, I don't trust him.
Oh.
Sorry. That's personal belief, but that's just me. I've been treated like a piece of crap with them before, so I'm not a big fan. So I don't trust anything they say. And I don't really trust their contracts either. So that's my personal view. You guys have your own view.
I can say we have probably had similar runnings in with, unfortunately, a fair amount of people on this list. And so I completely understand the concern. And we would certainly make sure that that would be a part of the contract. I think we are in a, as you all know, I mean, a different world of where we are with the companies that we are talking to now. It's a very different look.
Okay.
I mean, the other side of that is we don't have to accept any of these bids.
No, you can, there's only so many that do this.
You're looking at
You're,
4.
you're looking at probably four
Requests were
that,
made of 4.
Yeah.
3 responded.
yeah.
I guess my question would be, is we're looking at a 3-year, 3-year, and a 5-year. Are we looking at the WM, as you said, as 15, 20?
Yes,
Yeah.
if we are comparing apples to apples, it would be the 15.
Here's my point though, is if you've got Caldwell's giving you a 5-year contract, I assume at that rate. And if we're looking at a 3-year contract at the rates of the other two, correct?
But Caldwell's will also increase every
3%.
year, 3%.
Yep.
Every year.
I think he understands
Okay,
that.
and their environmental fee.
I guess my problem is and what I'm looking at though, is if, let's take the Republic as an example. If after the 3-year contract, Republic raises their rate by $303 a month, they're over what the 1621 would be in 5 years. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, yes, I understand what you're saying.
So if they adjust their pricing, anything over $303 a month, either one of these other two, then they're actually gonna be over Caldwell's after a 5-year period, even with a 3% increase.
Well, plus a 10% environment.
And that can fluctuate.
That's in there though.
That's
currently.
in the 1621, but that, correct. But that is a fluctuation. It does say a fluctuation. So, I mean, it could rise. I doubt it ever decreases, but it could rise.
Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna rise. If you're looking at 10%, that's pretty hefty already.
I thought it was a pretty hefty price tag myself compared to what I feel we probably are charged by Waste Management.
I would assume that if they did get the contract, they would agree to holding that, because you can negotiate once you get the
I
contract.
do
in.
believe we could talk to them about possibilities.
I'm just looking at total cost. I don't know if $303 is a lot per month to get an increase after 3 years, or if that would be, I mean, if you look at the 10%, I mean, if there's, or 3%, I guess, it wouldn't be that much. But if it gets much over that in those years, then you're at the same rate as you are with Caldwell. So it's just some figures I did while I was sitting here on cost. But, and I don't know anything about any of them, so.
Well, it seems to me that after 3 years, if Republic came back with a significant cost increase, we would just go through this process again. And
That's the other option.
hopefully out of 4, we'd do better than the 1621 plus 0.03, 0.03, 0.03.
And I will say there is something to be said for the fact that they have a $500 million facility that they just brought online that they are going to have to feed. I mean,
Who's the Republic?
Republic.
It's probably
And
reflected in their bid.
I acknowledge Kevin's concerns, but I also acknowledge what Jesse said, that
Yeah.
none of these are Boy Scouts. We're
Good
probably-
summary.
We're probably dealing with the devil, no matter what we choose in terms of customer service.
So does everybody feel like they have enough information to make a conscious decision on this?
I guess my question would be, is there any reason to accept any of these bids?
We don't, or we would just have to stay under contract with, or not really, we're out of contract with Waste
Correct.
Management right now. We're operating probably on a month-by-month basis.
And we don't have a compactor that is set up for our new facility.
We kind of timed it such that moving the facility was the appropriate time, so we only moved it one. Yeah. So we would.
And it will take 10 to 12 weeks to have a compactor made.
And currently, our compactor is Waste Management's in the current facility.
Right, and it is out in the parking lot versus at the facility.
What's our monthly cost currently?
Carla? Well, if you look at what we
What's the
paid,
compactor inside the back
WM,
door
so
right now?
we pay, I believe, $750 a month for the
Cardboard
compactor.
baler.
Oh,
And
it's mailer.
then we
Okay.
have a haul charge of 120, I believe, per ton. 120 per ton, and plus the environmental on top of that.
So we're more than this 1440 right now.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say, if you look at the 1220, it would be, that's, the comparable is the 1220, so it's actually less than where we are right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But realistically, it's that 550 because that other bin is not gonna be able to be used.
So I'll leave it up for the board to let me know if we've got enough information or if you don't want to take any of this information.
So just to clarify, if we take plastic, if we do go with one of these individuals that does process the plastic, do we have a place to store that plastic? Because we've been turning it away now, correct? Some of it, like the styrofoam.
We would either
and the-
continue to do what we do now, in the same vein,
Okay,
depending on who we go with, and hope that as the evolution of facilities come online, so if these people are maybe not currently using Republic for their plastics, but might have the availability, they may open up their lines at some point, which may allow us the opportunity to capture more materials. But we either continue going along the same way we are, in which case we don't take the thermal plastics.
right.
And we send them home with people. Or if we are with Republic, we'll be able to take those plastics and we won't send them home with people.
But their question was, do we have room to store those plastics?
Yes.
Prior
Oh,
to
gosh,
going
no.
compactor?
No.
But the compactor will take them, if I'm understanding what you're saying. I mean, that's why the.
Well, but you have to have room to keep them someplace before they go into.
Yeah, if we
compactor.
aren't using Republic, we will continue to do the same program the same way that we're currently doing it. Because of the availability of what's being offered.
And I would just say, Mr. President, if we make no decision, we will probably open a building without a compactor.
Which isn't a good.
I'm inclined to move forward with Republic.
There we go. Got a motion on the floor.
I would second that as long as they agree to the contract that states that they will include all
1 through 7
those
plastics.
plastics and that we won't get a turn away on those because I
Is that good enough
understand
for your motion?
Commissioner Walz's.
Oh, and
Okay.
we fight. We keep our data, we fight because we've had to have a few fights along the way. So I appreciate that.
But the term of art is 1 through 7 plastics, is that correct, Jesse?
Yes, under that.
And we might even just state it emphatically that includes thermoplastics, correct? Is that what you're saying? We know how we like to repeat things.
So that is the amended motion. So,
That would requires legal review on the contract to make sure everything's all encompassing, I presume.
So it would be pending legal.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
all pending.
Very good.
That's fine.
Okay. That's the motion, been amended. Lynn's got it. So I would ask for a vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
I believe it would be 5-0, is that correct?
Four-
4-1.
4-1.
4-1, oh, you said nay? I thought you said all opposed say nay. I didn't know you said
And I
nay.
said
He's not
nay.
gonna vote for them regardless of what they do.
4-1, thank you.
Okay.
Personal vendetta.
And
I
will
will
actually-
agree with that. As much hell as they put me through, I will agree with that.
Before Wes comes up here to speak, I will say that the Talks Box closing dates, and he can certainly speak about it a little bit more, but just that you're aware, we are operating through that first Saturday, so we will close the Friday for our normal hours. We have a Saturday take back that Saturday, and then we will be cleaned out on April 5th. We will have Corson hopefully on the 11th or 12th, no later, preferably even if they could come the afternoon of the 10th, great, because we do have to have that box decompressed before it can be moved to the new facility. And so as far as the Talks Box goes, that is where we are with that. We do anticipate at this point in time closing the April 17th, the Franklin facility, because the 18th, of course, is the Friday holiday. And then that next week will actually be the moving, closing, doing all the things that we have to do to get out of the building. And I will let Wes.
And Wes.
Then Wes.
And then there was
Yes,
Wes.
Commissioner, did you?
What was the Friday holiday?
Good Friday.
Good Friday.
Easter's late
Okay,
this year.
There we go.
Easter is late this year. Well,
Qualify.
it was early last
That
year.
was-
Yeah, it's the latest it can be.
Usually just don't, I guess.
Yeah.
It was early as it
Consider
could be
job.
last time.
Yeah, so, it actually kind of worked out perfectly because we need to bail, we need to do everything and then move out of the facility, but yeah.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'll just give you a construction update. We're making good progress. Weather's helping us. We are, they're working on the exterior siding to get the building enclosed. If you've been by there, you'll notice the whole office portion is enclosed. They poured the slab in that area. They started fire protection in that area, the fire sprinklers. They started metal stud framing today. And the garage area, which is a heated floor slab, is set to be poured within the next 2 weeks. So they're getting it all prepared for the heated slab, and it'll be poured in the next couple of weeks. We've run into a little bit of a issue out at the street. We've got a really high water table, and for the sewer hookup, which is very deep, we got a new pond out there basically. So we're working through the engineering of that. We have settled on some temporary wells to pump from so they can get in there and do their work and then hook up our sewer, which, by the way, the lateral to that is being installed today from the building close to the excavation for the sewer hookup out at the street. But anyway, they will get the water taken down, be able to work in their box to hook up the sewer, and then we'll disband the wells and then infill the excavation. So a little bit of a hiccup out by the road, but as soon as we get that taken care of, then we can start our road work, which includes a deceleration lane on the east side of, or a passing blister on the east side of the street, deceleration lane on our side of the street, the west side. Jesse spoke a little bit about the Talks Box. I'm anxious to get that moved. We're going to get that slab poured ahead of time and get that moved before the actual building is completed, because we need to move that as we make preparation for our community corrections building, which is starting construction next Monday. So we got a few things to coordinate, and everything's falling into place. We just need to make things happen as we see fit. So it's working out for us, though. I think the site work will begin here soon out at our new site, and that will allow us to get all of our parking on site. Right now, it's a bit unorganized, and we're constantly trying to keep our workers out of the neighbor's parking lot. And I stopped by there this morning. There was a truck over there, so we got him moved. But so far, it's gone really well, other than the fact that we've had this little hiccup out by the street. But if that's as bad as it gets, I think we dodged a few bullets along the way. So any questions from anyone? I guess the main thing is we will be able to move in starting April 21st, the week of, and it'll be tight, but we'll get there, so.
I don't know, I walked the site the other day, and I understand why some of those construction workers are parking over there in the other parking lot, because they've got the sites are trashed.
Yeah.
That there's nowhere else to park, and I know we've had bad weather, and there's a lot of that, but that's the most debris collected, discomfited project site I've ever walked in my life.
They've got everything all over the place.
Yeah, and I've been on a lot of projects in my lifetime. and been
Very
in the construction
unorganized,
industry,
yeah.
and I just wanted to make that point that I'm very disappointed in whoever's building that project. It's the ugliest site I've ever been on.
Yeah, it's, I think as soon as we get the hole filled in out in front, that will allow them.
That'll help some of them. That's why I said, we've had bad weather, I
Yeah,
get it. but
well, yeah,
They've got
but-
equipment parked everywhere, they got trash laying everywhere, they've got construction materials laying everywhere. There's no way in the world you could park anywhere there.
No.
So I understand the issue.
Yeah, absolutely, so,
But
good
that would
observation.
be a superintendent problem, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know how to call that, but
Yeah.
anyway. I don't know, you were there too, but
Yep.
pretty ugly.
Well, hopefully after this week, that will change once they get the dewatering done out front.
No, it's a little more room.
A lot more, yeah. You don't
Beats a
have
free car wash.
You don't have a reservoir in their front yard.
Or water rescue.
Quick question.
You just hope it's not one of the dogs.
Sounds like we're on schedule. Are we on budget?
yes, yeah, we're well within our bond budget, so, doing well with that so far, so, yeah.
Remind me what the total cost?
2.3,
I think.
Yeah.
2.4, something like that.
I think we bonded 3, didn't we?
Thanks.
Yeah, it was just
239.
over 3, like, barely.
Did we go to bond 3?
I think we went to bond
Because I
at
thought we'd
3.
come down, but we couldn't go up.
Right.
So we're
Wes or
good.
Jesse, can one of you remind me of the address of the property, please?
It is 22 something Graham, it's
Right.
250.
You
Do you know
know,
where,
right north of, under one roof.
Under
I
one
want,
roof.
I want to report it to the city council at the next meeting, and I'd like the exact
I will
address.
make sure.
Can I shoot that to you when I get back to the office?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Or I could look it up on
Wait,
Beacon, is it
no,
under?
you know what? I do have it right here because Rebecca
see.
actually used it. I was reading. Good, Jesse. 2250 North Graham Road.
Thank you, and we'll be open definitely by the 1st of May or something.
No.
No,
We'll be,
That was the part Wes is being very,
we'll be moved.
will be
Okay.
moved. Yeah.
open by the end of May?
Wes?
Well, the building will be available. They'll have, what we won't have is the asphalt down on moving day.
Okay,
Jesse's got some organization with her crew to get them organized as to how to operate the building. But I would say by the middle of May, we hope to be very well open. And,
Okay.
yeah.
I know that when we discussed it, when I talked to Kevin, we said that we should just say the, day after Memorial Day. And I know that in speaking to Wes, our concern is not necessarily us being able to access the building, but us truly being able to legally.
Well, we hope to have our temporary certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
And move-in date. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're operating out of it, and it means they can move in.
gotcha.
Right.
And I think you're asking about operating, and
Yeah.
that's where I think there's still
I'll just be vague about
Yeah.
that.
But that's what I'm trying to be too, which is really hard, because we're, we really want to promote it in April,
I
but,
think our hope is sometime in May,
Yeah,
before the 500,
yeah.
This summer.
which is in July.
But a great question, Councilman, because quite frankly, most of my focus is, are we gonna be out of our existing lease?
Yeah,
To make sure we don't run into that pretty arduous bump in payment. So
Yeah.
we are gonna accomplish that.
yeah, and that's our biggest thing. I said, if we just have to put everything in the warehouse, we'll put everything in the warehouse.
We'll get out of there.
I don't care what we have to do.
Yeah, we'll get out of there.
We'd be available to do that. We knew we'd have some problems. Asphalt plants won't be fully operational. Probably just getting back online.
But that's why you get a temporary,
Yeah. So we'll get to temporary and we'll be able to roll.
so we're good.
All right, any new business? I do have one question for Jesse. How are we collaborating with the health department on a tire day removal?
Sorry. But we actually have it all set up. It is June 28th. Please, I'm sorry, I don't have my phone right in front of me. That should be the last Saturday in June. We got the grant. We've already set it up through the proper channels for the tires. We asked Community Corrections to give us 3 or 4 people. The way most districts have handled it, because again, it's not really the district, the health departments, is that if you were able to bring it, you can get it in the semi type of thing. So that way we hope to limit any large tires, because the minute you start grabbing larger tires, you run into issues of not, the cost and also how many you end up taking in comparison to your residential tires. So that is the way in which we're facing it first. We also, Betsy and I spoke about the fact that, as we look across the county, where are some of the areas? Whiteland and New Whiteland actually don't have a tire collection going this year, so the fact that we're doing it in June will help kind of support theirs. But Princess Lakes, I do believe, still has that piece going. So that grant was for $10,000, so we talked about giving them $2,500 to collect tires to be able to support the community down there. And then if Trafalgar wanted to do one, because they don't generally have a pickup, utilizing the areas that don't necessarily have those programs available to them, to be able to capture the grant dollars. And this is something that, as long as the state has open, we'll be able to continue to go after. There's nothing that stops us from getting it next year just because we received it this year. As a matter of fact, they were begging people.
Where's the tire disposal actually located? I mean, where's it gonna be?
It'll be at the health department,
At the
so
health
we're
department.
going to use that back alley. They'll drop the semi in that back alley and people will just loop around and come through, that way, so.
I've got a couple tires I need to get rid of.
There you go. That'll be it. I know I talked to Betsy last week. But just to make it clear to the board, I was misunderstanding this. I thought the tire collection was a multi-day, it's not, it's one day.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking, where we're gonna park a semi at our health department and leave it for a week or two, and what you're gonna get debris wise outside it when nobody's open
no,
hours,
no,
but it's one day and done, so
Yeah.
And what
That
is
was
the
a-
times on that?
I just needed to get that clarified.
Basically, we will say, she either said 9 to noon or 9 to 1, because again, this is technically like, it'll all say the health department with just us on the bottom. But the way in which most people have done it is really, you put out the numbers, but if that semi is closed, then the semi's closed. I mean,
Once you run out?
that's, yeah, once you're done, you're done. There's nothing that we're gonna be able to do about that. Because it will, depending on the tires, it'll cost us anywhere between $2,400 and $3,200, depending on the amount of tires.
Okay. All right, thank you, Lynn, or
Yeah,
Jesse.
that's okay.
All right, any new business? Okay, our next meeting is May 12th, same place, same time. And if we've got other public comment. Okay. Everybody's free and clear?
Motion to adjourn.
There we go, we have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second, and we are all in favor, yay, yay, yay. We're all adjourned.